My name is Gerald, and I work with Liberated Lens. We show films at the Omni regularly, and right now we want to talk about one of those films. I'm fortunate enough to have in the studio with me Brother Bob Mandel and Bob Wells, both who are members of the Labor Action Committee to free Mumia. All right, just starting off, the film that we're going to show this Sunday, that is April 22nd, is entitled Mumia Long Distance Revolutionary. Mumia Abdul Jamal, Long Distance Revolutionary. Would one of you gentlemen tell us a little bit about Mumia and what the film is going to be about? Give us, a little taste.
Yeah, the film is about his life story up at the present, and it's also about the frame-up in court by Philadelphia law enforcement. But when Mumia was a 15-year-old high school student in Philadelphia, he joined the Black Panther Party. As a result, he was beaten by the police, tracked for life by the FBI. And when he left the Panthers, he became a radio newsman for Black FM radio in Philadelphia, making a career out of exposing on radio the corruption and brutality of the Philadelphia police, which is pretty extreme even in terms of the rest of the country. To the point where the police and law enforcement in Philadelphia decided to get rid of him. He was warned personally at a press conference by the mayor of Philadelphia, Frank Rizzo, who was the former police chief, whose style of going to the opera was to put a nightclub in his belt.
In his tuxedo belt.
In his tuxedo belt, yeah.
Okay, he country fool, all right.
And there's a bronze statue of him in Philadelphia saying hello, which is to say Heil. No, it's a Nazi salute. So in 1981, he was framed for the murder of a policeman, sentenced in a kangaroo trial over the 4th of July weekend to life imprisonment. And in 2001, I think, he was on death row from 1982 to 2001. Finally, the death sentence was commuted to life without parole. So the movie, Mumia Abdul Jamal, Long Distance Revolutionary, tells that story, how he grew up in the projects in Philadelphia, how since he's been in prison, he's written 8 books about law, Jailhouse Lawyer, about black religion, about the history of the Black Panther Party, about politics. He's got himself a master's degree, and he's going for a PhD at Cal State Fullerton. And the movie lays out his life story, which is very inspiring. What's mainly inspiring is his courage, because he's never yielded, never bent to these tremendous pressures that have been put on him. And the movie spells that out very clearly.
Okay, well, let me ask you about, you, okay? In terms of your activity, what would you care to share with us about your work to support Mumia? Because actually, you had pointed out to me that you had assisted Mumia to acquire a subscription to a newspaper. Is that right?
I did, yes. For one thing, for somebody who's been locked up in solitary for 32 years, he has an amazing grasp of what's going on in the world. And I guess a lot of that depends on his subscription to USA Today.
Well, let me turn to Bob here a minute. Well, from Bob to Bob. Let me say, what would you care to share with us about your experience in supporting Mumia Abdul Jamal? I think that as teachers, you guys actually organize a district-wide movement to educate the people of Oakland and beyond of who Mumia Abdul, who he was, who Mumia was, and also about the death penalty. Is that correct?
Yes, we did that in 1999, and it was enormously controversial. And the reason it's enormously controversial can actually be answered by looking at what's going on in Sacramento right now. The recent murder of Stephen Clark by the Sacramento police, or if you go back to Louisiana, the decision to not file charges against the cops in the Elton Sterling murder by police. And we know this goes on literally every 28 hours in the United States. And to take that up in the classroom in an urban setting set a frenzy among the powers that be, both the police and the media, because the last thing they want is an honest discussion about the role of police in American society, which is not to protect and serve, it's to repress and control.
Just along that lines, I remember doing a little research on this matter, and I remember reading an article, and I cannot remember the name of the gentleman involved, but there was actually the shooting of a police officer in Oakland around the time that I think it was in December, before before the event that you're talking about. And oh man, they so opportunistic. They jumped on that and said, "Oh, we can't have a cop killer worshipped in our schools when you have here a murder of our police." How do we respond to this foolishness?
Well, they had brought that up from the beginning, and we said that the one had absolutely nothing to do with the other, and that Mumia is not a cop killer. Mumia is innocent. Another person confessed to the crime.
I'm wondering, what is it that does not allow these reactionary pundits or would-be pundits to put one and one together? Because, well, if Mumia Abdul Jamal has always spoken up for, asserted his innocence. Is that not the case?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. So he says, I'm innocent. So he never accepted the moniker of cop killer. Ever. And if one familiarizes oneself with the facts surrounding the case, it becomes pretty clear. How do you convict an innocent person like that if he was innocent? How does that happen? How do you wind up being convicted if you were innocent in the first place? I'm asking a question.
Well, one thing they did was any witnesses, there were witnesses who were favorable to Mumia were either intimidated to changing their testimony. In one case, the man was a Vietnam veteran and a business owner, and he wouldn't change his testimony. He was a black tow truck driver, tow truck business owner. The police terrorized him. Philadelphia's police terror is what runs Philadelphia. So they brought the police pressure on him, and he went back south. He might still be living in the South.
Left the city.
Left the city.
Because he didn't want to change his testimony.
Right.
This is America, sir.
It is. It's exactly right.
Are you saying that this type of behavior is permitted in this great land?
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not.
So
That's sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to say something about why Mumia was targeted, why there are still several dozen, I think, Panthers still in jail. Before the Panthers were founded in Oakland, Oakland had the highest ratio of police executions of arrested suspects of any city in the United States, which is saying something given Chicago's record and Philly's record and so on. And the Panther patrols of the police with guns in one hand and law book in the other actually put an end to that for over 20 years. And if you think about that on a national scale, why did J. Edgar Hoover target them with COINTELPRO? He targeted King because he was afraid of a black messiah, and he targeted the Panthers because the Panthers were putting into practice programs which directly challenged both police terror and the fundamental inadequacies of the system. And I know that when we first decided to organize the teach-in, part of it was because we know whatever the Panthers' mistakes, that's not why they were attacked by the capitalist government. And we thought it was important for kids growing up in Oakland to know the legacy of the free breakfast program, sickle cell testing, patrolling the police, and so on.
And thereby, it was useful for them to understand Mumia
Exactly.
and his roots.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Now, just more recently, well, no, let's go back now. So we have this event, because I was active at the time, and I remember that it was unusual to have, well, I'm saying to have the entire district talking about the injustice of the death penalty, the racist nature of the death penalty, and talking about a political prisoner in a country where they deny that they are political prisoners. In fact, I was given a box of essays to look over that had been written by children, because I've always been active in the schools. I've run for school board in the past. And to be honest, I was shocked. Shocked. Whatever you did, you touched these children in some way, because they were writing about these subjects, death penalty, Mumia, their family members in jail, etc. So if nothing else but just these expressions from these children came out of this event, I can see that it looked like it was pretty worthwhile. What was your evaluation of the event after you successfully executed the event?
The teaching? Well, it wasn't just our assessment. It was teachers generally took part in it. It took part at every level from high school to kindergarten.
Okay.
High school teachers were saying that students that they hadn't seen in class for weeks were showing up. You know, they had to scramble to find seats, that the kids were paying attention, who were usually goofing off or not there, and were writing and talking about stuff, maybe not too literally.
Literate.
Not too much. And that was the teachers, the education's fault. But they were taking seriously these questions of constitutional law, policing, the issues that affect them, which they didn't hear much of in school as a rule. And all the way down to kindergarten. You say, oh, well, what can you do in kindergarten? But if you've ever been around kids who are 4, 5, and 6, they have a very sharp sense of right and wrong, fair and unfair, justice, very sharp. And they grasped immediately what the teachers were talking about at their level. They could see the unfairness, and they were, doing drawings, writing.
I saw some of that.
Yeah, and from kindergarten through high school.
Magnificent, what I saw. Okay,
So now let's jump forward. That exactly because the teach-in struck a nerve and because the teach-in made international news, and along with the longshore work stoppage, which happened about 3 months later, the longshoremen on the West Coast shut down every port on the West Coast, demanding that Mumia be set free. You jump forward to 2014, and the police, who have a very long memory, and the state, which they represent, the government, which they enforce for, has a long memory. The Oakland School District had a website that had teacher-developed curriculum, and one of the lessons on the website was asking high school students to compare Mumia's prison writings with Martin Luther King's later writings, his radical writings after the speech on Vietnam and so on. And through Fox News, the police intervened and demanded of the school district that this website be taken down.
Now, wait a minute. Through Fox News? What? I don't be watching no Fox News. What's up with that? You telling me that somebody somebody saw the website and read about it and said, "Oh my goodness," and then went and informed to Fox News that they need to start a campaign of some sort, which they then initiated. And then what was the results?
Well, the school district immediately took down the website.
Notice, wait a minute, they didn't discuss this at all with the initiators of the website?
They immediately. And what this represented and represents, it was a really important fight. This was basically the police determining what could be taught in the classroom. They were literally saying that goes.
Don't the administrators already know that cops are not educators? I'm not trying to be funny here. Now this seemed like they added a tree, and it would seem like a self-respecting administrator could not possibly take serious anything that a cop has to say about a curriculum for children, particularly black children. You know, in terms of Dr. King or Mumia Abdul Jamal or anything else as far as I'm concerned. So what was the result of this? Because we do have to move this along. Let's go.
Well, you put your finger on it, a self-respecting administrator. There were none.
Okay.
There were none, and this is the period of the massive attack on public education in the U.S. and in Oakland in specific. The development of more charter schools, again proportional to the size of the school district than anywhere else in the U.S. So it's not just, they weren't self-respecting. They knew who was paying their way. And the response was absolutely, down it comes.
But that was not the end of the story, was it?
No.
Well, then let me hear. So what happened? So they got their way, they shut down the site, so what's up?
Well,
take it in the chin and grin?
A small group called the Oakland Teachers for Mumia, which had people who had organized the 1999 teach-in. As Bob said, that was completely unacceptable. Couldn't be allowed to stand. And so we and others from Oakland Teachers from Mumia were attending every school board meeting. Stories were appearing in the press. Notable people, Alice Waters.
Okay.
No, Alice Walker.
Yes, Alice Walker.
Alice Walker. Ed Asner, who was a big supporter of Mumia, both of them are, wrote letters. And finally, after a summer of pressure on the school board, they reinstated the...
Well, if my memory serves me, it also intersected the Raheem Brown killing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So the Oakland police, the Oakland School District police, murdered a young man, a 19-year-old, who was parked outside a school dance at Skyline High School.
I'm well aware of that, yes.
And what we were able to do was catch them in the contradiction of their cops killing somebody who'd been a student in the district, and them caving into the police on the question of you can't discuss Mumia and in context with Dr. King. So we won.
Okay, and the site is up today.
Yes.
And if someone wants to go to the site, how could they do so?
Google urban dreams, urban as in city, urban dreams, and you'll find it.
Okay. Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I was distracted.
That's quite. It's on TV. Google urban dreams, urban as in city, urban dreams, and you'll find it.
So we're going to show this film about Mumia Abdul Jamal. In it, they're going to go over his biography, how he lived, the commentaries he makes, and all of that. And then are you guys coming to the film? Will you be able to be present and explain, answer questions, that people may have about the film?
Absolutely.
Oh, very good. So is there anything else that we want people to know in terms of struggling for justice for this innocent man?
Yeah, okay. Yes, it's to me. Oh, here, I got it. Or it's more legible. These are not as new as they used to be. So, on Saturday, April 28th at noon, there's a rally at Franco Gallo Plaza in downtown Oakland, otherwise better known as Oscar Grant Plaza, in support of Mumia's court case. And then there's going to be a march from there to the Oakland Police headquarters.
Okay.
And this is going to be taking place in a number of other cities around the country, also, especially in Philadelphia. And hopefully the pressure will encourage the system to do the right thing about Mumia. He's in court. He's a very interesting court case.
Well, wait a minute. Let me get this straight so people need to know.
Okay.
Mumia was convicted of murder.
Yes.
You allege that Mumia is innocent.
Yes.
I have researched that on my own, and I would tend to agree with you. That's the facts point to his innocence. Now, it's over. They done locked him up. You said they took him off of death row, so what are you talking about here?
Well, if he's innocent, he should be out, right? You're innocent. You're not in prison.
Absolutely, but he's already been convicted.
I'm innocent.
So how is it that he's in court?
Well, because there was a Supreme Court decision about 18 months ago involving a Pennsylvania case that said that somebody who was involved as a prosecutor in a case cannot then sit as a judge on appeals involving the
You're talking
case.
about let me get this right, the Williams versus State of Pennsylvania decision of the Supreme Court. Okay.
And
so
the judge is named Ronald Castile. He was the judge in the case that the Supreme Court found to be unconstitutional. And he was a judge also in Mumia's appeals. And he was assistant DA and then lead during periods of Mumia's appeal.
Oh, that's some stuff like from To Kill a Mockingbird
Yep.
or something.
Yep.
I mean, he's the judge, the prosecutor, everything.
Exactly, and this guy actually wrote the governor of Pennsylvania urging essentially mass killing. He urged him to expedite the execution of everyone on death row. So that's the kind of judge and prosecutor that we're hoping to get the conviction overturned.
It would just seem logical that one cannot be the prosecutor and the post-conviction relief appellate judge. That's a contradiction, a little bit too much for me to swallow.
Yeah, he's ruling on his own rulings.
Exactly. All right, so that's not cool. That's why y'all protesting, is that right? So what we have is movie Sunday. Let me see, 6 o'clock, they say the doors open, and the Omni is located 4799 Shattuck Avenue in Oakland. And the film starts, doors open at 6, film starts at 7, and these two gentlemen, Bob Mandel and Bob Wells, will be with Liberated Lens that night to answer questions from the audience. Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, and we hope everyone comes to the rally as well.
Thanks for the opportunity.